Hey, what's going on? Coaching Success Radio. Another interview today, coming up with the future coaching success stories. Check it out.
As I build my coaching business, I want to know how to effectively serve clients and make more money doing it. This podcast will pull back the curtain to reveal exactly how successful coaches are building their empires. Join me as I engage with top coaches from all over the world to discover their secrets. No theatrics and no theory, just real life strategy. My name is William Winterton, and this is Coaching Success Radio.
Hello, welcome to the podcast. It is William and Coaching Success Radio. I am really excited today because I have a very special guest with me joining me here today. This is Niamh Mitchell, and she is out in Madrid, Spain. And she is a life coach, and she's also a grief coach. And I'm really interested in hearing her story about how she got started and what she's doing in her business to help it grow and to serve as many people as she can. So Niamh, how are you today?
Hi, William. Thanks for having me. Delighted to be here. I'm great today.
Yeah, it is awesome to have you here. So clearly anybody listening heard me say you're in Madrid, but you say one sentence and we know that you're not originally from Madrid. So tell me a little bit about, you're Irish, yes?
That's right. Yeah, I've been in Madrid for about 10 years now. Before that, I was living in Vietnam for a while. And I wanted to come back to Europe, but having lived in Asia for a while, I couldn't cope with the constant rain that comes with living there.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Madrid was a good middle ground.
There you go. That's good. And now you're back in Europe. Hearing a little bit about your story, and I'd love to just kind of get a start, maybe just before you get into the coaching thing. Tell us a little bit about kind of where you started and how you got into your coaching niche.
I've always been interested in personal development since I was quite young. I studied psychology at university and then took a break from my studies for what was supposed to be a year and ended up spending about 10 years traveling around the world teaching English. And then I got to a point in my career where I wanted to either retrain down the psychology route or do something different. So through investigating different master's options and the different courses available, I came across coaching, and it was the perfect fit for me.
How did you land on particularly life coaching in general, and then we'll go into grief coaching, because I think that's a very it's nice and specified what you're doing with that. But what kind of started the life coaching process in terms of specifically that? What
appealed to me about life coaching was that it took the expertise of the individual and it really helped them to reach their potential. I found during my time as a teacher that even an inverted commas, weakest students, if you could help them focus on their strengths and what they did well, their language acquisition increased exponentially. And I think that really inspired me as a teacher. And I loved that connection between the psychology and coaching, and how working with individuals using the coaching model could help them to really see their strengths and see their potential and reach their dreams.
How did you go into grief coaching? That's a very specific issue. So what's the story behind there? I feel like there's something behind that.
There is. Many years ago, when I was going through my own personal crisis or journey, I went and spent 2 months volunteering in a Buddhist center in a very remote part of Western Ireland. And they had a program, a spiritual care program, that dealt with the dying and the bereaved. And it was about bringing a spiritual rather than a religious care element to people who were particularly vulnerable because of either their own impending death through terminal illness or the recent death of a loved one. And I was very much touched and inspired by the work that they did. And following that experience, I spent a lot of time reading just the various books that deal with Buddhist philosophy. And their approach to death is very different to how I was used to experience it in a Western culture. Sure. And it made me realize how death avoidant we are as a society. We don't like to talk about it. When somebody's grieving, we want to move away from them and their situation as quickly as possible. And it's something that we're all going to experience in life, unfortunately. And I thought it was just a very important area to be able to support people in. A lot of people go through bereavement and grief, and they come across emotions and experiences, the physical element of grief, the cognitive elements of grief, and they think they're going crazy because nobody wants to have that conversation. Nobody says, when I was grieving, I felt this huge hatred for people in my life who weren't grieving, or I felt that I was going mad because I couldn't remember what I did 5 minutes ago. There's all these aspects to grieving that are completely normal, and we're not having conversations about them. So people feel it adds to the burden of being bereaved when you are trying to cope with the different aspects of grief and not knowing what's normal and what's not. And then have this habit of trying to fix it. And grief is something that you can't talk away. You can't, people's platitudes don't make you feel better when you're grieving. It's something that you have to experience and you have to go through it. And I think partnering with somebody and accompanying them on that journey makes it less lonely, less frightening, less confusing, and it allows people to grieve openly.
It is. It's something that we all have to deal with. We don't like to talk about it much, but what I love about what you're doing is that you've been able to find a way to serve people specifically to what they need for a specific period of time. How do you set yourself up, and how do you first of all let people know what you do, market yourself in this niche?
Well, I have some blog posts, not many because I'm a little bit slack with getting the blog posts out, but I
it's all right.
Share articles and bring things up and share things on social media about grief. And it's interesting the amount of response I get from those posts as opposed to the posts that I put up for normal life coaching.
Sure.
It's going back to that not having the conversation. So if you share something and say, okay, this is a very normal part of grieving, it's reaching a lot of people. That's what I find. It's people are seeing themselves in those posts and, you know, appreciate the fact that somebody's willing to have that conversation. So that's the main way. A lot of what I find as well is that clients come to me for life coaching. So people are a bit reluctant to come to me anyway. This is my experience as a coach, specifically
Sure.
for coaching. But they come for life coaching and they're like, I see that you're also a grief coach. I have this experience with grief. Is it okay if we also explore that during our time together? So it does tend to go in unison with life coaching, which is something that I love as well, because it's about a whole person approach. So you can't separate your grief from you. And it's not something that quite often it's not something that completely disappears. We integrate it into our lives, but it's there and it bubbles up to the surface at certain times, sometimes unexpectedly. And people who are far along on their grief journey still appreciate having the space to explore what it means to them personally.
So generally speaking, you market yourself as a life coach and obviously make yourself available to people who need. So do you find generally you're attracting people who lean into needing grief coaching anyway? Like that's the people that you draw to you as a life coach, even if you're not marketing yourself as a life coach? Do you find that people you're attracting are feeling grief in that process anyway, or is that kind of not the common situation?
What it is that most of my clients would be, at least 40 or over. So they would have had firsthand experience with grief. And I think creating that environment of safety, as we do as coaches, it gives them the space to explore what they mightn't have explored previously. So they mightn't, again, as I was saying earlier, it's a lot of people don't feel like they need the intensive support of a grief counselor or a therapist as they go through their grieving process. But at the same time, they don't explore it in any depth. And then coming to life coaching, they get the opportunity to explore other areas of their life. And then this often comes up as something that they wish to look at more closely and understand more closely as part of their overall growth process.
Got it. I think, again, it's a nice marriage between those two fields, or, niches, really. So it works hand in hand, and it helps kind of support. It gives you just another layer of support that you can give to people. I think that's fantastic. Whenever you are, I'm just going to shift gears just a little bit. I'm going to go into some of the struggles and challenges you've had as a coach. How long have you been actually coaching on your own and doing this business of yours? Is this been about how long?
2 years. 2 years.
2 years. Are you doing this full time, or is this part time, or what's your?
Part time, with the hope to go full time as soon as possible.
Right. That's always the goal, isn't it? I want to just quit my 9 to 5 and do this full time, which is the dream. So, so then in doing this, what has been some of your challenges? Because I know, like, a lot of our audience, people listening and watching right now, are newer coaches and are maybe looking to start their business, or they've been coaching for a while and they're struggling. And I think it's good to kind of hear that other people are going through some challenges, and anything you've had that you've been up against that maybe you've been able to overcome. Just anything that you would want to share along your coaching journey here.
Thank you. It's like most new coaches, and I still consider myself a new coach. The biggest challenge for me is finding clients, but finding the right clients. So finding people who I can really help and who will get the most out of working with me as a coach. So within that, I think one of the biggest things was overwhelm. There's just so much information out there. You should be doing this, you should be doing that, do it this way, don't do that way. And I think having found my own rhythm within that, and I'm still finding it. So, there's a lot of things that they say, don't do it. Like, don't give free coaching sessions, for example. For me, that's what works. I have about an 80% conversion rate from free coaching sessions.
Is the free coaching like a strategy session, like a coaching call, one-time call, or is it you give 4 or 5 coaching sessions, or what do you mean by a free coaching session?
So a free coaching session is one call where they actually get coached for an hour.
Got it.
Rather than being a discovery call or a consultation, it's a no strings attached coaching call. Again, this has kind of this has happened organically. This is something I did at various points to either celebrate something or to give back to the community. Mm-hmm. What I'm finding is that people they still don't know what coaching is, and they don't know how much of an impact it has. Even people who understand it intellectually, until they've actually experienced a coaching session, they're blown away by the actual experience of it. So that energy they gain from it, the motivation, the belief in themselves and in their dreams that they can get from just 1 hour. And that has helped me sign up clients who are willing to commit to coaching for 3 or 6 months. For
anybody who is in Europe, you're like maybe the 3rd or 4th European person I've spoken in this past week. And everyone, including yourself, is saying that it's just educating people on what coaching actually is. And I would say clearly here in the United States, coaching has a much different level of reception. People get the idea that we have business coaches and financial coaches, and of course health and fitness coaches and all that kind of stuff. And I know that exists around the world, but when you start talking about life coaches and personal development coaches and spiritual wellness and certainly a grief coach or anything that's something super unfamiliar in that sense, I know it's just an education process. And in Europe especially, I know everybody I've talked to has said that I'm going out there, I'm saying I'm a coach, and they look at me like, great, yeah, I have no idea what you're talking about. So that's why I was just wondering, because being in Spain, I didn't know if there was still the same thing. It sounds like it's still a challenge at some level.
Absolutely. It's still in its infancy here in Europe. You've hit the nail on the head. They kind of look at you with that's nice. You're like,
it's the same look that somebody, when they tell you that, hey, I'm a professional accordion player, and you go, okay,
exactly.
I don't know what to do with that. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
That's right. Nothing against the accordion. But yeah. Well, I would just say, is there anything that I haven't asked you? Because here's the thing: is you've got a nice specialized niche in the life coaching, but then going a little bit further into the grief. Is there anything that you want to share with us about your business that you've been excited about, or something that's been kind of an eye opener for you that I haven't asked you about?
I think coaching is an amazing discipline. I think everybody should have a coach. It should be available in every area of life, because it really, even one session. That's why I gave my this recent block of free sessions. For me, one coaching session changed my life about 6 years ago. And
what was that?
It was just about finding my direction and getting enthusiastic about where I wanted to go and how I wanted to develop my career. Now, not every coaching session is going to change your life in one session, but it is life changing. And it's amazing that we're living in a time where you have access to these resources and to highly trained and highly committed people who are helping you, to walking with you to really live your best life. So I think that's what excites me about coaching. Every time I get off a call with somebody, it gives me so much energy to see them reaching their own solutions and reaching finding their own forward steps. We're just a tool. We really are a tool. And
yes, I agree. And it's rewarding to self. I mean, certainly you're doing the help, but I always feel very invigorated. I feel invigorated after these podcasts. I mean, I always get off. I'm like, I'm going to go and just change the world. I get so excited. Which then I just want to know, you just seem like you're so, you got so much to you. Niamh, what is like in 3 or 5 years? What would be like, where do you want to be? Where do we want to see you in that time?
In 3 to 5 years, I want to be coaching full time, because I think the domino effect, I think when people are living in integrity and when they're living in alignment with their true selves, it makes them better leaders, it makes them better parents, it makes them better spouses, and that's what's going to change the world. I think that when you live in alignment, it will reduce violence, it will reduce disharmony. It will reduce depression. I think the domino effect of people living their best life is going to be massive, and I really want to be a part of that.
Niamh, thank you so much for your time today. Appreciate it so much.
And thanks for having me. It's been great.
Absolutely.
Wow, that was awesome. Thank you so much for tuning in and checking us out. New episodes are coming out every few days, including lots of conversations with massively successful coaches sharing their secrets with you. So be sure to subscribe to our podcast and YouTube channel so that you don't miss out. And if you're looking for a way to start making serious money from your coaching, you need to check out my free training. It's at williamwinterton.com. I lay out the step-by-step on how to start making 5 figures a month in the next 60 days. Check it out, williamwinterton.com. I'll see you next time.